Why was this movie made? Really? Why? Please, someone inform me as to why this was released in cinemas by Nickelodeon of all companies, who in the past have come out with nothing but classics like Snow Day, Hey Arnold the movie, and Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius. I'm sorry, Jimmy, you know I didn't mean it. Released in 2006, Barnyard is a movie about following the tried and true formula of what are blank doing when there are no humans around. And that's basically it. The end. Video's over, go home. Seriously though, this movie has like nothing going for it. There's barely a plot. The characters are almost non-existent, and I can't think of a reason for this movie even being made. You know, other than for the obvious reason. One of the first things you see on screen basically sums up my thoughts on it. Oh. But I don't exactly think that would suffice for our review. And also I gotta find some other way to make this 10 minutes, so... Barnyard. Really fucking stupid name. Why is it called that? It was supposed to be called Barnyard, the original Party Animals, but they ended up not going with it. You know, probably because it sounds dumb. Nobody really liked this movie when it came out. It got mixed to negative reviews. And it didn't do that great financially when you take into account how much they probably spent on advertising and such. It also didn't help that 2006 was a year where anthropomorphic animal movies were aplenty, with films like The Wild, Flushed Away, Open Season, Curious George. Oh, I watched this movie a couple times as a kid, but honestly can't recall anything about it. The only thing I remember is once in my Irish class, my teacher randomly said, "Hey, y'all wanna see something?" Then he proceeded to play a clip on YouTube of Ben the cow beating up some coyotes with I Won't Back Down playing. He then whispered to himself, "Brilliant movie." And then we continued with our work. Alright, I'll stop stalling. The plot of Barnyard is extremely bare bones. It goes like this. Otis's dad, Ben, warns the barnyard about coyotes who are trying to steal the farm's chickens. The coyotes then kill Ben, so Otis tries to stop them. But the scenes that involve this happening only takes up like 25 to 30 minutes of the runtime. So what do they fill the time with? Partying. Lots and lots of partying. The coyotes are introduced about 25 minutes in, which in all honesty is a fantastic scene. And after Ben dies 5 minutes later, they forget about the main thread of the film until the last 20 minutes. And in between these parts is random shenanigans and more partying, which are probably the best parts of the movie, since they're the only scenes that look like they've had any effort put into them visually. There are tons of neat little gags and some clever stuff happening in the background, and if it weren't for these scenes they wouldn't have been able to throw in a bunch of songs for the soundtrack. We also wouldn't have gotten the best character in cinematic history, my boy, Biggie Cheese.
She call me Mr. Bombastic, tell me fantastic, put me on me box, she says I'm Mr. Roll.
Can you tell what year this movie was released in? Speaking of the characters, they sure do exist. See all these guys? Barely in the movie. They each only get a couple lines each, yet we're expected to believe they're all friends. Which is a shame because sometimes I can see a glimpse of an actual idea they had. Like how this guy, wait, what's his name? Freddy? Like how this guy Freddy is constantly all jittery and shaking because he always has thoughts of eating his friend. It's a nice and funny way to acknowledge that some of the animals on the barn are the predators and prey of other animals, but it goes nowhere other than having these amazing looking thought bubbles pop up above his head 2 or 3 times.
Freddy, nothing.
Other than those two guys, we got Pip, this Mexican mouse, Pig the pig, and our main man, cow Otis. He's a dick. Otis is very unlikable, although not on the levels where you're actively rooting against him. More so that the only reason you want to see him succeed is because those motherfucking coyotes killed Ben. There are a couple scenes where the character interactions really shine, mostly the scenes with Otis and Ben, and I wish we'd have gotten more of them before. You know. If you watched this movie, no matter how long ago, you know that the one thing to take away from it is this goddamn scene. I love every single thing about this scene, and the song. It's so great. It's the one part of the movie that actually has any stakes. It almost makes up for how ugly the animation looks. Almost. This film is really unappealing to look at. The textures, especially on the cows, are way too shiny. The lighting is bad. Otis looks like he'd feel like an otter or some shit, and the backgrounds and sets are so basic. The animation itself looks decent, I guess. Not on the same level as most other animated films around the same time, but it's passable. What doesn't help the animation though are these character designs. Okay, how did they go through the entire production of this film without one person stepping in and saying, "Oh, You know, male cows don't actually have udders. We should probably take them off all of the male characters so we don't look dumb. No, we've already gone too far into production. They have to stay in. Oh my god. It all makes sense. The udder, the feminine poses, Ben reminiscing about when he was a girl.
I remember when I used to sit out here with your sister.
I don't have a sister.
Oh, yeah. That was you, wasn't it?
Otis is transgender. Bravo, Nickelodeon. Bravo. Other than that, the rest of the characters are just unpleasant to look at. The only character it works for is the main villain. His raspy voice and the bones bursting against his skin look so unsettling and I love it.
And you're gonna stop us? Is that what's gonna happen? Are you gonna stop us?
It's just too bad they had to give this weird skinny look to some of the other characters in the film. It kind of takes away the impact of the coyotes looking starved. In terms of being a comedy movie, it's alright. Sometimes it can be funny, but there are many times where it relies too much on it just being random and having that be the joke. Like, who the fuck thought of Wild Mike, and why did it get put in the movie? I should be annoyed, but for some reason I kind of like it. This movie tries to have its cake and eat it too. Sometimes it's trying to tell a serious story about a son trying his best to live up to his father's expectations, but other times it's trying to be a silly cartoon with dancing animal ball furry things. It would have been a lot better to go all in with one of these. I honestly would have been fine with them doing either, but them attempting to do both at the same time results in a movie with serious tonal shifts. When we're watching the dramatic scene of Ben fending off the coyotes, it's spliced in with random cuts of the animals dancing to country songs. It really seems like they just didn't know what they wanted to do with this movie. But would I call it bad? Yes. There's no denying that, this is a bad movie. But I would be lying if I said I didn't find any enjoyment from it. They have a couple really dark jokes which flew over my head as a kid and took me off guard when I rewatched it.
Get up, kids. Nothing a little strip search won't cure ya.
Is this thing still on?
And god damn, Ben's death scene makes this movie impossible to hate. There's no charm about this movie that I really can't describe, so if you're really interested and just have to know what this movie is like, then give it a watch. Alright, what else is on this thing?
Don't you know it, don't you know it's just the way we animals roll.
Alright, so in 2007, Nickelodeon started airing the Barnyard TV show titled Back at the Barnyard. It lasted 2 seasons with a total of 52 episodes, and I remember watching it quite a bit as a kid and thinking it was fine. For some reason they decided to use clips from the movie in the intro along with clips from the actual show, but it's not that big of an issue because I barely noticed the difference between the two in terms of animation. You know what, scratch that, I barely see a difference between the two in terms of everything. The only thing I really see different is that this girl cow has hair instead of an ugly looking bow. Wait, her name is Abby? Wait, what, these are different characters? And yeah, that's it, it's kind of just more of the same. They toned down the partying aspect of it a lot, I'm assuming they just didn't have the budget to animate big crowds like that. But for the most part, if you like the movie for some reason, then I'm sure you'll love the show, although they got a lot more out there with the plots. I guess the writers didn't have many ideas for stories since they're restricted on being on the barn, but it means we get episodes about aliens and clones and leprechauns. But I would hesitate to call the show bad. These characters work a lot better in 22-minute episodes than a feature-length film. I still don't recommend anyone actually going out of their way to watch it though, it's really not worth it. It does have an amazing intro song though, which I shall read an excerpt from right now. From the haystacks up to the hilltops, we go on dancing. Tuesday, boogie oogie to the night. Beautiful. You know, this ain't so bad, I can just rest here and watch TV for all eternity. And at least now I don't have to make any more commentary videos.
Mark, you're alive.
Fuck no, put me back.